Have you ever stopped to think about the story of Eden? Not just as a tale of temptation and exile, but as a story about knowledge itself. We're told that Adam and Eve were cast out for eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. But what if that story is a metaphor for something else entirely? Imagine a different beginning, a world where humanity gained knowledge not through a single act of defiance, but through a gradual process of learning and discovery, guided by a higher intelligence. What if our ancestors were given the tools to understand the universe, not forbidden from them? It's a fascinating thought experiment that changes everything we think we know about our own origins and our potential as a species. This alternate Eden wouldn't be a paradise of blissful ignorance. Instead, it would be a cradle of guided innovation. Picture a world where early humans didn't have to stumble through the Stone Age, chipping away at flint for millennia. Imagine them being taught the principles of physics, mathematics, and engineering from the very start. Perhaps the angels or gods described in ancient texts weren't just celestial beings, but teachers, mentors from a more advanced civilization, sharing their wisdom. In this version of the past, progress wouldn't be a slow, painful crawl. It would be a series of incredible leaps forward, leading to achievements that we, even today, would find astonishing and almost unbelievable to comprehend. Think about what that would mean for human history. The Great Pyramids, the standing stones of Stonehenge, the intricate lines in the Nazca Desert. These might not be the products of brute force and primitive tools. They could be the legacy of this shared knowledge, monuments built with a level of scientific understanding we've only recently rediscovered. What if the stories of gods walking among men weren't just myths? What if they were fragmented memories of a time when humanity was part of a grander cosmic community? This possibility forces us to look at our ancient past not as a primitive era, but as a golden age of lost science and forgotten potential. It's a powerful idea to consider. If humanity was once on this accelerated path, what happened? Where did all that knowledge go? The story of the fall from grace could be an allegory for losing that connection, for being cut off from our cosmic teachers. Perhaps humanity grew arrogant or misused the technology, leading to a cataclysm that reset civilization and plunged us into a dark age. This theory flips the script, suggesting we are not climbing toward a peak of knowledge for the first time, but are instead slowly, painstakingly trying to recover what our distant ancestors once knew and tragically lost. The clues, they say, are still out there, waiting to be rediscovered. Let's push the boundaries a little further. When we look at the night sky, we see Mars, the red planet. For centuries, it has captured our imagination. But what if it's more than just a neighbor in our solar system? What if it's our ancestral home? Some theorists propose a truly mind-bending idea that humanity is a Martian species. They suggest that a catastrophic event, perhaps a massive asteroid impact or a devastating solar flare, rendered Mars uninhabitable millions of years ago. The survivors, a small remnant of a once great civilization, journeyed to the nearest habitable world to start over. That new home, of course, was Earth. It sounds like science fiction, I know, but it's a theory that attempts to explain some of the great mysteries of our past. This idea of a Martian genesis could explain why some ancient stories seem so out of place with our understanding of primitive life. Take the story of Moses parting the Red Sea. In the biblical account, it's a miracle, an act of God. But what if it was an act of technology? What if the staff of God wasn't just a wooden stick, but a device capable of manipulating gravitational fields or creating a powerful electromagnetic pulse to push back the water? If our ancestors came from a technologically advanced society on Mars, they would have brought that knowledge with them. The incredible feats described in myths and legends might be distorted accounts of real scientific capabilities. This theory also reframes the concept of gods. The powerful beings who descended from the heavens in flying chariots, as described in texts like the Indian Vedas or the Book of Ezekiel, might not have been divine entities at all. They could have been the last of the Martian colonists, using their advanced spacecraft and technology to guide and protect the fledgling human settlements on Earth. They would have seemed like gods to early humans who had lost the context of their own advanced origins. The stories of creation, great floods, and epic battles between celestial beings could be the echoes of a real, forgotten chapter of our interstellar history. It's a wild ride for sure, but it connects some fascinating dots. The sudden appearance of complex civilizations like the Sumerians and the ancient Egyptians, with their advanced knowledge of astronomy and mathematics, could be explained by this off-planet influence. Maybe we are the aliens on this planet. Maybe the longing to explore the stars isn't just curiosity. Maybe it's a deep-seated, instinctual desire to go home. As we send rovers and plan missions to Mars, perhaps we aren't just exploring a new world, but searching for the lost history of our own. The answers might not be buried in the sands of Egypt, but in the red dust of another planet. Now let's zoom in on one of the most famous and mysterious objects in all of history, the Ark of the Covenant. For most people, it's a religious icon, the golden chest built by the Israelites to hold the stone tablets inscribed with the Ten Commandments. It was said to possess immense power, capable of striking down enemies and communicating directly with God. But what if the Ark's power wasn't purely spiritual? What if it was physical, tangible, and based on principles of science we are just beginning to understand? This is where a fascinating and controversial theory emerges, suggesting the Ark of the Covenant was actually a piece of highly advanced ancient technology. The theory proposes that the Ark was, in essence, a powerful electrical device. Think of it as a massive capacitor or a Leyden jar, designed to store and discharge immense amounts of static electricity. The biblical descriptions of its construction are incredibly detailed, almost like a technical manual. It was to be built of acacia wood, which is a poor conductor of electricity, and then overlaid both inside and out with pure gold, an excellent conductor. This design creates a classic capacitor two conductive plates, the inner and outer gold layers separated by an insulator, the acacia wood. This wasn't just a fancy box, it was a carefully engineered machine. The stories surrounding the Ark certainly support this idea. Anyone who touched it improperly was said to be struck down instantly, a fate consistent with massive electrical shock. When the Philistines captured it, they were afflicted with tumors and plagues, which some researchers have interpreted as symptoms of radiation sickness. The Ark was said to produce a strange glow, described as the presence of the Lord, which sounds a lot like the corona discharge or plasma effect seen around highly charged electrical objects. Even the instructions for the priests who handled it wearing specific linen garments and remaining barefoot could be interpreted as safety protocols for grounding themselves to avoid a fatal discharge. So, where would this incredible piece of technology have come from? If we follow the thread of our previous theories, it's possible the blueprint for the Ark wasn't delivered on a mountaintop by a divine being, but was instead a piece of preserved knowledge from a much older, more advanced civilization. Moses, who was raised in the court of the Pharaoh, would have had access to the secret knowledge of the Egyptian priesthood. Perhaps the Ark was a recreation of a device they already possessed, or maybe it was the original device itself, taken from a place of great power. This transforms the Ark from a simple chest into a potential key, a key to unlocking the secrets of ancient Egypt's power. When you start looking for connections, sometimes the numbers are what tell the most compelling story. Investigators into this theory have pointed out an absolutely stunning correlation. They compared the biblical measurements of the Ark of the Covenant with the dimensions of a key object found deep inside the Great Pyramid of Giza, the granite coffer or sarcophagus, located in the king's chamber. The results are startling. The external volume of the Ark, based on the dimensions given in the book of Exodus, is almost identical to the internal volume of the sarcophagus. It's a near-perfect fit, as if one was designed to hold the other. This isn't just a random coincidence of size. The mathematical relationship goes even deeper. Both the Ark and the king's chamber sarcophagus are said to incorporate the golden ratio, or phi, approximately 1.618, a fundamental mathematical constant found throughout nature, art, and architecture. This divine proportion was considered sacred by ancient cultures, believed to be the building block of the universe. The fact that these two incredibly important artifacts, from two different cultures, appear to share this precise mathematical DNA suggests a common origin or a shared purpose. It's as if they were both built from the same master blueprint. What could this mean? The theory suggests that the sarcophagus in the king's chamber was never intended to hold a body. It was a cradle, a housing unit for a power source, and that power source was the Ark of the Covenant. Imagine the Ark, with its capacitor-like properties, placed snugly inside the granite coffer. This arrangement would have positioned it at the precise focal point of the Great Pyramid, a structure that some engineers believe was designed not as a tomb, but as a massive energy harvesting machine. The sarcophagus wasn't a coffin for a king, it was a docking station for the pyramid's engine. This idea completely changes our perception of these ancient wonders. The Great Pyramid is no longer a monument to a dead pharaoh, but a functional power plant. The Ark of the Covenant is no longer just a religious relic, but a sophisticated piece of machinery. The precise measurements and sacred geometry were not just for show. They were essential for the device to function correctly. This shared design language, based on the golden ratio, hints at a profound understanding of physics and harmonics. It suggests that the ancients knew something we have forgotten: how to build machines that worked in harmony with the fundamental forces of the universe itself. So, if the Great Pyramid was a power plant and the Ark was its core, how did the whole system work? The theory, championed by researchers like Christopher Dunn in his book, The Giza Power Plant, lays out a fascinating step-by-step process. It begins deep beneath the pyramid, where subterranean water channels and underground chambers could have created powerful vibrations and acoustic energy. This is known as piezoelectricity, the electrical charge that accumulates in certain solid materials, like the quartz crystals embedded in the pyramid's granite, in response to applied mechanical stress. The Earth's natural vibrations, amplified by the pyramid structure, could have been the initial spark. This vibrational energy would then be channeled upward through the massive structure of the pyramid itself. The Grand Gallery, with its corbelled walls and precise angles, might not have been a hallway but a giant resonating chamber, designed to amplify these acoustic frequencies to an incredible intensity. Think of it like a giant musical instrument, tuned to the specific frequency of the Earth. The shafts leading out from the king's and queen's chambers, often dismissed as air shafts, might have been waveguides, precisely aimed at specific stars to harness cosmic energies or simply to fine-tune the resonance within the structure. The entire pyramid was a finely tuned machine for gathering and amplifying energy. At the heart of this system, in the king's chamber, the Ark of the Covenant would have received this amplified energy. Acting as a capacitor and perhaps a transducer, it would have converted these vibrations into microwave energy or a powerful electrical field. This is where the real magic happens. The theory posits that the pyramid would then broadcast this energy wirelessly. The outer casing of the pyramid, originally covered in polished white Tura limestone, would have acted as a perfect insulator, while the gold capstone that once crowned the structure would have served as the broadcasting antenna, sending power out across the land of Egypt. Imagine ancient Egypt not as a land of torches and oil lamps, but as a civilization illuminated by clean, wireless energy. The obelisks scattered throughout the land, often topped with gold or electrum, might not have been just monuments. They could have been receivers, drawing power from the air to light temples, power tools, and sustain a technologically advanced society. It's a vision of the past that feels more like the future. This wasn't primitive magic, it was sophisticated physics. If this theory holds any water, the ancient Egyptians were masters of an energy science that we are only now beginning to rediscover with figures like Nikola Tesla. This brings us to one of the most pivotal moments in the biblical narrative, the Exodus. We are told Moses led the Israelites out of bondage in Egypt. But if Egypt was a wirelessly powered superstate, the story takes on a whole new meaning. In this version of events, Moses wasn't just freeing a group of slaves. He was pulling the plug on an entire civilization. Raised as an Egyptian prince, Moses would have been initiated into the highest levels of the priesthood's secret knowledge. He would have known about the pyramid power plant and its core component, the Ark. The 10 plagues that befell Egypt could be reinterpreted as the catastrophic side effects of tampering with or shutting down this massive energy grid. When Moses finally led his people out of Egypt, he took the most important object in the entire kingdom with him. He took the Ark of the Covenant. In this theory, the Exodus wasn't just a migration, it was the greatest technological heist in human history. The Ark was the central fuse, the engine, the heart of Egypt's power. By removing it from its housing inside the king's chamber, Moses effectively shut down the entire system. The lights went out all over Egypt. The advanced technology that had sustained their civilization for centuries, their wireless electricity, their advanced tools, perhaps even their climate control systems, suddenly went dead. Think about the implications. The story is no longer just about religious freedom. It becomes a story of technological collapse. The Egyptians wouldn't have just let the Israelites go. They would have been desperate. They weren't just chasing escaped slaves, they were chasing the key to their entire way of life. The powerful Ark, now mobile and outside of its stabilizing chamber in the pyramid, would have been incredibly dangerous and volatile, which explains the strict rules for transporting it and the deadly consequences for anyone who got too close. It was a live, unstable power source on the move. This act of taking the ark would have fundamentally altered the course of history. For the Israelites, it became their ultimate weapon and their direct line to God, a source of immense power that guided them in the wilderness. For the Egyptians, it was a catastrophe. Their golden age was over. Without their power source, their society would have begun a long, slow decline. They would have lost the ability to maintain their advanced infrastructure, and over generations, the knowledge of how it all worked would have faded into myth and legend, leaving behind only the massive, silent stone structures that we puzzle over today. Now, picture the scene. The entire Egyptian army, the most powerful military force in the known world, is thundering across the desert in pursuit of a ragtag group of former slaves. The traditional explanation is that Pharaoh had a change of heart and wanted his workforce back. But does that really make sense? Would a king risk his elite forces, his chariots, and his own life just for manual labor? The pyramid power plant theory offers a far more compelling and logical explanation for this desperate chase. They weren't after the people. They were after the power source the people were carrying. The pharaoh and his advisors would have understood the magnitude of their loss immediately. It wasn't just an inconvenience, it was an existential threat. Without the ark powering the grid, their civilization was crippled. Their lights were out, their advanced tools were silent, and their military advantage might have been compromised. The very foundations of their society had been pulled out from under them. The pursuit was not an act of pride or anger, it was an act of pure desperation. They had to get the ark back, or everything they had built would crumble into dust. This was a national emergency of the highest order. This context also sheds new light on the parting of the Red Sea. If the ark was a device capable of manipulating energy fields, as we speculated earlier, then Moses could have used its power to create the path to safety. It might have generated a localized, high-energy electromagnetic field that pushed the water aside, or created a temporary land bridge through some other technological means we don't yet understand. For the pursuing Egyptians, this would have been a terrifying display of the very power they were trying to reclaim, now turned against them. When the field collapsed, the sea would have rushed back in, swallowing the army in an instant. It was the ultimate checkmate. Moses didn't just escape, he used Egypt's own technology to decimate its army and seal their fate. The loss of both the ark and their elite military forces would have been a devastating 1-2 punch from which the Old Kingdom might never have recovered. The chase was not merely a climax to the story of the Exodus. It was the final tragic act in the downfall of a technological superpower. The Egyptians weren't just defeated, they were unplugged, outmaneuvered, and left powerless in the desert, watching their future disappear over the horizon. If this theory is true, it forces us to completely reevaluate our understanding of ancient history. It suggests that the timeline we've been taught, one of slow, linear progress, is wrong. Instead, it points to a history of cycles, of incredible technological peaks followed by catastrophic collapses. The ancient Egypt we see in museums, the one of pharaohs, hieroglyphs, and tombs, might be the shadow of a much greater, older civilization. It might be the dwindling civilization that came after the lights went out, a culture trying to hang on to its past glory with only fragmented knowledge and fading memories. This would explain so many of the inconsistencies that puzzle archaeologists and historians. For example, why do the earliest pyramids, like those at Giza, show a level of precision and engineering skill that was never replicated by later dynasties? Mainstream Egyptology suggests a learning curve, but the physical evidence points to a de-learning curve. The first structures were the most advanced, and the later ones were poorer imitations. This makes perfect sense if the original builders had access to a lost technology that their descendants did not. They were trying to copy the masterworks of their ancestors without the original tools or blueprints. This model of a lost golden age could also apply to other ancient cultures around the world. The stunning stonework of the Incas at Pumapunku, the complex astronomical alignments of Mayan cities, the legendary tales of Atlantis. Perhaps these are all pieces of the same global puzzle. They could be the scattered remnants of a worldwide, technologically advanced civilization that was shattered by some great cataclysm. The exodus of the Ark from Egypt might have been just one part of this global collapse, a key event that triggered a domino effect across the planet. Our history books would need to be rewritten. The ancient world would no longer look primitive. It would look like a post-apocalyptic landscape filled with the enigmatic ruins of a forgotten scientific age. The people we call our ancestors weren't simple farmers and builders. They were the survivors. They were the ones left to pick up the pieces, preserving what little they could in the form of myths, legends, and sacred texts that we have long misinterpreted as simple stories. We have been reading a technical manual as if it were a book of poetry, missing the incredible truth hidden in plain sight. So where does this leave us? We're standing at a crossroads between accepted history and a theory that, while wild, connects an incredible number of dots. Is it possible that the Ark of the Covenant was a power source, that the Great Pyramid was a power plant, and that ancient Egypt was a technological wonderland? The evidence is circumstantial, of course. We don't have the Ark to examine, and we can't just flip a switch on the pyramid to see if it powers up. But the questions this theory raises are too compelling to ignore. They challenge us to look at the past with fresh eyes and an open mind. The search for the Ark of the Covenant continues to this day, captivating adventurers and archaeologists alike. But perhaps we've been searching for the wrong thing. We've been looking for a holy relic, a sacred chest. What if we should be looking for a machine, a piece of lost science? If the Ark were ever found, it wouldn't just be the greatest archaeological discovery in history. It would be the greatest scientific discovery as well. It could unlock secrets of clean, abundant energy that could change our world in the same way it once powered the world of the pharaohs. The potential is staggering. Ultimately, whether you believe this theory or not is less important than the act of questioning itself. It encourages us to challenge our assumptions and to recognize that our ancestors may have been far more sophisticated than we give them credit for. The clues are everywhere, in the precise mathematics of ancient structures, in the strange descriptions of powerful artifacts and sacred texts, and in the enduring mysteries that conventional history cannot explain. We just have to be brave enough to follow them, no matter how strange the path becomes. The greatest expeditions are not always to physical places, but into the uncharted territories of knowledge. The story of our past is far from complete. There are still so many blank pages, so many unanswered questions. Theories like this one, as outlandish as they may seem, are vital because they push us to keep exploring, to keep digging, and to keep asking, what if? The truth is out there, somewhere. It might be buried under the sands of Egypt, hidden in a long-lost manuscript, or waiting in the red dust of Mars. The only way we'll find it is to keep the expedition going. The next discovery that changes everything could be just around the corner. We have to be ready for it.